Okay. So the way it's set up today, we're going to get into the study by Dr. Ali Fazili with regards to the mathematical structure of the Holy Quran and how it connects to something, a concept called number theory. We're going to touch on, there's a movie that as I was putting this together, there's a movie that came to mind, and there was 3 specific scenes from the movie. I never thought of it like this before, but as I was watching the scenes from the movie, what Mother Tanetta Muhammad shared with us many years ago about how they're scientists in Hollywood and how they're putting the truth in the movies. We're all familiar with that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And as many times as I have watched this movie, I did not see this until just last night, and I wanted to share this with the believers. Okay. And is going to verify, I believe, what Mother Tanetta Muhammad, yes, and putting in cartoons as well, is going to verify what Mother Tanetta Muhammad taught us years ago. And then we're going to kind of break the ice. We're going to touch on some of the aspects of his research, and that's going to lay the foundation. And then, God willing, within the next couple of days, I'll get the books to everyone so you can read it for yourself. And the book, even though I'm sending it PDF, I just want to share with the believers that this actually was a free download when I initially found it years ago. So I'm not, I didn't do anything underhanded or whatnot with regards to this book. When I originally saw his, and we're gonna look at some of the videos that he has on YouTube. He has mentioned it in the YouTube videos. He had mentioned the link, if I'm not mistaken, and it was a free download. So I'm just going to send you what I received, and then we'll see where the mathematics takes us. Please excuse my enthusiasm because this is a subject matter that's near and dear to me. There's 2 things that when I start talking about these subjects, I get kind of hyped up. One is mathematics, and the other one is chess. Those are my 2 drugs of choice right now. So I get I act kind of like a child when I talk about these subjects. I actually enjoy these 2 things. So that being said and done, does anyone have anything else before we get started?
I was gonna say, brother, just go ahead and enjoy yourself, man.
Yeah,
Let the
right.
enthusiasm flow.
You gotta understand. You might see it as I'm talking. I just become like a child because this brings back memories of my dad. It takes me back to, I go back to 1980, and I can still remember sitting in the car. We went to the post office, and why he did this, I have no idea, but he had ordered a math book for me when I was 10. And I remember looking in this book, and I remember the first thing I looked at that I always wanted to figure out, I was looking at these trig tables, trig functions, sine, cosine, and tangent, and all these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at these numbers with the thought that, what does all this mean? And this is at the age of 10. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm talking about it, so please forgive me. I might get a little teary-eyed because my dad and I were very, very close. But my father was the type of person that always kept me busy in academics. I didn't have time to run the streets. He was very strict on that. He always had me doing something involved in something dealing with math or science. I was part of an astronomy club when I was young. I played the drum, so I was always learning how to read music. He always kept me busy, and that's what kept me out of trouble. So as a result, I remember back around 1985, 86, somewhere around there. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I guess I might have been sitting on the couch a little too long. And he came in and he said, and he was angry because I was watching too much TV. And his words were, I think almost his exact words were, "Boy, why don't you go read a book or something?" And so just recently, I looked at that like the angel Gabriel saying, Ikra.
Yes, sir.
So in my teens, one of my habits would be I would on Saturday morning, I would catch the bus, I'd go to the mall, and there was three things I would always do. I'd stop at Friendly's and get some ice cream. I'd go to the movies, and I would hang out in the bookstore for hours. And I was always in like the new age section. I was always reading books on
Mm-hmm.
physics and religion, the
Mm-hmm.
back when bookstores used to be in the mall.
Mm-hmm.
So books have been a part of my life ever since I was around 8 years old. I would say that's about as far back as I can remember. So when I came
Mm-hmm.
across these videos of Dr. Ali Fazeli, and he was dealing with the mathematics and the mathematical structure of the Holy Quran, being a student of mathematics and what he revealed in these videos just blew my mind. So I hope to take my enthusiasm and share it with you with the hopes that you know, it, in a positive sense, a contagion by aberration, pass on that,
Yes,
pass
sir.
on that enthusiasm. Um, and I'm going to begin with something that came to my mind just this morning. And I share this not from the person, and I know you already know this, but I'm saying this to keep myself in a humble space, that I share this not to make myself of anything, but to show us, I believe, Allah speaks to all of us. We each have or can have an intimate relationship with Allah. We just have to open up our minds and find our purpose. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, blessed is the one who finds his purpose and is found doing it. This morning, I just got off a 24-hour tour, and I woke up this morning, and what I'm going to share with you next, these are the first thoughts that were in my mind. Let's see, let me bring up my PowerPoint. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're going to deal with the theology of numbers. And as the minister would say, I want us to put on our thinking caps. I'm going to take my time with this, and I have no idea where this will lead us, but I believe that something in this subject will help to oil some of the rusty locks that we might have. Okay. So first thought this morning, first thought on my mind. Now, what I'm going to share, the minister probably already said it. Okay. So I'm not trying to say I'm the author of this. And here's, and I'm not going to say the strange thing about it. The interesting thing about this, and I'm not trying to be spooky, is that as this was coming to my mind, I heard it in the voice of Brother Jabril. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm thinking, I might have heard Minister Jabril speak on this before. I'm not saying Brother Jabril was in communication with me. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I probably heard one of Brother Jabril's lectures, and he might have taught this. Okay. I was looking at a word, and we know a word is a collection of letters that represents a sound, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a word is a group of letters. Like in chemistry, you have an atom and then you have molecules. And that atom by itself contains a unit of power, and a molecule contains a certain amount of power, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm looking at the word made up of letters the same way that a molecule is made up of atoms. And that word is a sound that conveys, the word is a group of letters that's conveying information. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So a thought is conveyed on that sound. Therefore, the groups of letters called words are used to transport thoughts. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I keep asking because I don't, let me see if I can't see everyone's face. So I have to go based on sound. When I can see a person's face, sometimes I can, if those that are familiar with teaching in front of people, and this was something that we experienced um, working as chaplains. You read the faces of the individuals that you are looking at, and you can determine whether individuals are grasping what you're conveying. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, all right, here we go. So if a word is a group of letters that represents a sound that conveys a thought, then sentences, we could say, convey ideas and concepts, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then my mind went to quantum computing, which is a method right now in the field of quantum mechanics that's used to encode data onto atomic particles. And I can't go too far into this because I'm still a baby in this. My understanding is very, very small. And this is something I'm learning about. But this is the basic concept. Brother Enrique, can you confirm this, or do you have any extra data you can kind of share with regards to this concept?
That what aspect of it again?
That quantum computing is like a science right now that's dealing with the encoding of information on atomic particles.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah. Basically, yeah. That's
Okay.
exactly what it is.
Okay. And I don't want to go too far into that because, like, again, I'm just now learning that concept. But here's where the thought is going between these two concepts. What if numbers are the elements used by Allah to convey thoughts? Because in this
Mm.
universe, we have unseen forces that exist, right? We have weak force, we have the strong force, we have electromagnetic radiation, we have gravity. All these forces are invisible or unseen. However, in the study of quantum physics right now, every particle also has what are called force particles. Does that make sense? Like gravity is not just gravity, but gravity is based on particles that are dealing with attraction. Okay. There's forces that exist in the universe, and these forces are based on particles of energy. Okay. So now if we understand that physics is what is used to study the unseen, and we also understand that mathematics is the language of physics, then mathematics is the method or methodology that we use to study what we can't see. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Definitely.
So in the Holy Quran, in Surah 2, it says, uh, who believe in the unseen. Alladina yukminun bil gaib. Gaib is the word that means unseen, uh, invisible. But when we deal with the universe, there's forces that are unseen, but they're still real. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So my thought, the progression of my thought is, what if numbers and groups of numbers are used to convey ideas and messages? So all we have to do is study Mother Tanetta's work. And she was very big on, and I think it was one book that was called The Comer by Night. And in that book, she talked about it in Unveiling the Number 19. And there's a clip of the minister. It's just an audio clip where he speaks about the lessons. That then there's more to understand than the numbers. The numbers are more than a series of numbers. There's a message in the numbers. And I believe it was, I think, what was the lecture? The minister goes in and he breaks down 4,600,000,000, and he deals with what's the meaning of the 4, what's the meaning of the 6. So we have to understand there's numbers, but then the numbers are arranged in a way where the numbers are revealing something else. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. So based on that, that's kind of like where we're going with this. Have I confused anyone yet? Everyone's good? Okay. So if this is true, then Allah is continually speaking to us through the language of numbers. And we're going to see
absolutely.
And we're going to see this. And Brother Enrique, if to anyone who's taking notes, I mean, if you like to take notes, that's fine. If you want the PowerPoint, I'll send it to you. That way, you don't have to write down everything you see on the screen. I'll just send you the PowerPoint.
Okay, yes, sir.
Instead of it's because really what I always like the believers to do. Don't worry so much on writing down what you see. Write down your cognition. Write down the thoughts that come to your mind, because
yes, sir.
This, I believe, will unlock other things. And if you're focused on writing this, you might miss that $1 million cognition.
Okay. Got you.
So I will send you the PowerPoint. That's not a problem. I want to hear the cognitions in your mind as we're going through this, because what comes to your mind might crack open a whole nother set of atoms.
Well, I want to share something with you from Mother Tanetta's book that you just mentioned.
Go ahead,
Comer by Night. She said in the same way that a person uses the Morse code, you have to memorize each dot beep, all of that, to memorize the Morse code in order to convey a message. In the Comer by Night, she said we're supposed to memorize the lessons, because the lessons, just like when the Morse code, you listen to the code in order to decipher what the word is, but if you don't memorize the code, you can't decipher it. So memorizing the lessons, she said in that book, allows us to decode Allah's communication in the form of different events and circumstances that happens in the world, and then relate it to the supreme wisdom, Holy Qur'an, and the Bible in the form of numbers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And wait till you see, because everything we're dealing with today is dealing specifically with what you just said, Brother Enrique. I saw we had some people that just came in and joined us. Assalamu alaikum, family.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
Okay. We're just getting started. And as I said to the believers before, don't worry about writing down everything that you see on the screen. Everyone whose email is in the chat, I'm going to send you the PDF of the book we're going to talk about. I'm going to send you a scanned copy of a book called Islam is Mathematics by Mother Tanetta Muhammad. That's going to kind of go along with what we're going to study over the next course of how many weeks that Allah blesses us to go through this. And I will send you a copy of the PowerPoint so that you don't have to focus on writing down what you see on the screen. Focus on the thoughts that pop in your head that might take each one of us to a whole nother that we'll all get case gain from this. Does that make sense, family?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This now. However, if we are not studying our lessons, If we cannot speak a mathematical theology, we are missing information that could clear us. Based on just a little bit that I've studied up to this point, I'm looking at our Supreme Wisdom lessons from the perspective of what's called the TRs in Dianetics.
Come on now.
Meaning, if we look at the minister, and this is not taken away from anyone else, but the minister to me represents the best representation of clear.
Yes, sir.
And he did so based on what the messenger taught us. That being said, if we understand what TRs are, I'm beginning to look more into the concept of using the lessons as a tool of processing.
Go ahead.
Where Allah is the auditor. The thought came to my mind this morning as well, and it's mentioned in the book by Mother Tanetta Muhammad, where she talked about the 7 prayers. She talks about the tahajjud and the dua. The dua said between Fajr and Zuhr, and tahajjud is said after a few hours of sleep at night. And she mentions, there's something else she mentioned. She mentioned the 7 prayers. Duha and tahajjud are done voluntarily. But the thought is this, and this had triggered a whole nother thought, and it's going to be a whole nother subject. God willing, we might cover that on Sunday. I don't know. But if we're praying 7 times a day, and we did mention this last class, wouldn't that be the same as coming back to present time 7 times a day? So if we're coming back to present time 7 days, then wouldn't or couldn't prayer be seen as a type of processing?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes in making our salats, doesn't our mind wander?
Yes, sir.
So even in salat, sometimes we go back on the time track, and then we have to come back to present time. Sometimes we have to start the prayer over because we forgot it. And it's not that we forgot it, our mind was distracted. That's why we say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Okay, let me get my mind back to this prayer and get focused on this prayer. If we're doing it 7 times, then 7 times out of the day, we're being processed, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the thought was, what if Allah is the auditor, the Supreme Wisdom lessons are the processing, and the numbers are meant to move us up the gradient? What if there's more to the number? And we already know that this is the case. There's more to the numbers, but we want to take it a step. We want to take it a step further. And it just so happened that when I got up from bed this morning after having this thought, I looked at my watch and it was 5:41 a.m. And 541 happens to be a prime number. And in the 541, you get the number 19. Can you see it? The 5
Yes, sir.
9, and you just reverse it and you get the number 19. All right. That's just for those that, unveiling the number 19 was I studied that more so while I was in college. Back at that time period, there was outside of the centerfold or the message by the Most High Elijah Muhammad and the message by the minister, there was 3 areas of study: unveiling the number 19, Farrakhan the Traveler, and 1155 by Brother Abdullah.
Yep, I remember that.
Okay, those are the 3. Now, I want to play 3 clips from the movie Contact. This, and again, I didn't see this until I just looked at part of this. I was like, wait, that totally missed this. 3 clips dealing with Contact. Who has never seen this movie? Okay, so everyone has seen this movie. Okay. Well, let's look at it from a different perspective. In this first clip, is when they first make contact with the message, and the way they confirm that this is a message from intelligent life is the message is conveyed in a mathematical pattern based on prime numbers. Okay.
Talk to me, guys. Partially polarized set of moving pulses, amplitude modulated.
Relax. Systems check out signal across the board. What's the frequency?
4.4623 gigahertz. Hydrogen times pi. Told you.
Strong sucker, too. I got it. I'm patched in.
Oh wait, there's something I want
Times
to watch
pi.
real quick. Did you see the 3 lines on the screen?
Yes, sir.
When I was looking at those 3 lines on the screen, the thought that came to mind was the God and his 2 messengers. That's Revelation chapter 11. The God of the earth, before the God of the earth stood the 2 candlesticks. Y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
Maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but that's what I saw.
Talk to me, guys. Partially polarized set of moving pulses, amplitude modulated.
Relax. Systems check out signal across the board. What's the frequency?
4.4623 gigahertz. Hydrogen times pi. Told you.
Strong sucker, too. I got it. I'm patched in.
All right, let me hear it. Make me a liar fish. Could be AWACS out of Kirtland jamming us, but I'm doubt. All right, let's see if Bud's reading it too. Willie, patch it back and give me the off backs. Are we recording? Never stopped. Thank you, Elmer. AWACS status is negative. What about White Sands? On this frequency, no. I'm gonna punch up the darks. How's this playing tonight, guys? Come on. NORAD's not tracking any snoops in this vector. Shuttle Endeavor's in sleep mode.
Okay. Point source confirmed. Whatever it is, it ain't local.
Position?
I checked interferometry somewhere in Lyra, I think.
There you go. Can't be. It's only 26 light years away. Hey, what's the peak intensity? Coming up. There you go. And a bunch of times the receiver was negative results, always. Got it. Hitting over 100 jet skis.
Jesus. Pick it up on my...
All right, it's restarting. Wait a minute. Those are numbers. That was a 3. The one before it was 2. Base 10 numbers. Just start counting now. See how far we can get. 1. 7. Times 2, 3, 5, 7. Those are all prime numbers. And there's no way it's a natural phenomenon.
Holy
Okay,
shit.
let's just calm down and pull up the star file on Vega. It doesn't make any sense. The system is too young, so it can't have a planetary system, let alone life.
Well,
Maybe they didn't even go up there. Maybe they're just visiting. I don't know. Okay, so spacecraft? No, this system is full of debris. It would get clobbered.
not if they use their laser blasters and photon torpedoes.
It's not funny, Willie.
Well, how else are we gonna explain it? That's what you're talking about.
You know, he's right. If we go public with this, we're wrong. That's it. It's over. We're cooked. Wish Count was here.
Whatever the signal is, we better do something soon. Vega's gonna set.
That position is confirmed. We've got
4.4623 gigahertz. Confirmed. We've got 112 Jamskis.
All right, do you have a source location yet?
We put it right smack in the middle. Vega.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Just keep tracking and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, righto.
Any thoughts?
I know what I get from it is just looking at how they extracted the patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just looking at it as random lines, they started to take down a sequence of numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
But the communication.
Mm-hmm. Mathematical patterns.
Talk to me again.
Now here's another scene, but I wanna lay a base of something that was in this movie that I thought was very interesting. What happened was, so she found. Wait, let me ask this again. Is there anyone that has not seen this movie?
I haven't seen it in a while.
Okay. So I didn't want to spoil it, but so if you remember, she found the pattern, and there was her supervisor kind of was real underhanded and took over as if he was the one that, had found all this information. So what happened is, the key concept of this clip, and again, all of this is leading up to something. She meets this man named Haddon, who lives on a plane. He actually has a plane. This dude has so much money. His plane just travels and he lives on the plane. Okay. You see where we're going with this? Okay. So he's up in the air. He calls her to the plane to give her information to unlock the message. Does this sound familiar?
Yes, sir.
Sound like this happened before, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Somewhere around September 1985.
Yeah, somewhere around there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the clip, you're gonna see that he knows her whole life story. He knows everything about her. Now, it just so happens that the word Haddon, his name is Haddon, but in Arabic, the word Hadan means he who guides. And he's about to guide her. He invites her up to his plane to give her some information that no one else has to help her unlock the message. I mean, it sounds kind of plagiaristic. It sounds like that they've heard this story before. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's watch the clip.
Joanna died from complications during childbirth. Early testing indicated high predisposition towards science and mathematics. Father Theodore, advised to provide enrichment activities along these lines, did so conscientiously until his death from myocardial infarction, November 10, 1974. You graduated from high school in 1979, almost 2 full years early. Awarded full scholarship, MIT, graduated magna cum laude. Doctoral work, Caltech, where you did breakthrough work on the lanthanide dope ruby maser, dramatically increasing the sensitivity of radio telescopes. Subsequently, offered a teaching position at Harvard University, which you turned down, to pursue SETI work at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. Changes in NSF policy gave rise to certain funding problems. At which point, you came to my attention.
You compromised our security codes.
Once upon a time, I was a hell of an engineer. Please, sit, Doctor. I have guests so rarely, it's important to me that they feel welcome in my home.
You live here?
find it convenient to keep my interests mobile. Anyway, I've had my fill of life on the ground.
Well, I guess I should thank you for having bailed me out all that time.
I know a good bet when I see one. Earl Grey, no sugar, no milk, I believe.
What am I doing here?
Powers that be have been very busy lately, falling over each other to position themselves for the game of the millennium. They'll deal you back in.
I didn't realize that I was out.
Oh, maybe not out, but certainly being handed your hat. I've had a long time to make enemies, Doctor. Many governments, business interests, even religious leaders that would like to see me depart this earth. I'll grant them their wish soon enough. But before I do, I wish to make a small contribution, a final gesture of goodwill to the people of this little planet that have given, from whom I have taken so much.
Father Primer.
Clever girl. Right. Pages and pages of data. Over 63,000 in all. And on the perimeter of each,
Alignment symbols, registration mark, but they don't line up.
they do. If you think like a pagan. An alien intelligence has got to be more advanced, and that means efficiency functioning on multiple levels and in multiple dimensions.
That's key.
Mhm.
Yes, of course. Where's the primer?
You'll see. Every three-dimensional page contains a piece of the primer. There it was all the time, staring you in the face. Buried within the message itself
Is the key to decoding it. Within the layering of the matrix, we have these basic equations.
Mm.
With this very elementary foundation, they've given us a
So we say that message is comparable to our supreme wisdom lessons?
Oh, absolutely.
Without
Supreme
a
wisdom
question.
is supreme wisdom is superior.
Okay, so that means there's layers. He said when you're dealing with extra, now we know we're not dealing with extraterrestrial, so we understand how to filter out the information. But when you're dealing with civilizations, or as our lessons say, a high civilization, you have individuals that think on multiple levels and in multiple dimensions, correct?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
So then our lessons, we could say, can be understood on multiple levels and in multiple dimensions from multiple angles, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Sister Peggy, did you notice anything about the tea? You should have picked up on this. They offered her the tea. What kind of tea did he give her?
Earl Grey. Yes.
Sister Peggy knows what I'm talking about.
Earl Grey. Jean-Luc Picard loves Earl Grey.
Earl Grey. He'd go to his machine and say, tea, Earl Grey, hot. Hot. Okay, that's the second clip. Now, the third clip, go ahead, Sister Angela, you have something?
I just wanted to take the note at the janazah of Brother Jabril. The minister mentioned how man think.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go back and watch it. I don't want to say it out of turn, but I know that the two ways of thinking was linear and cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
He
Okay.
mentioned it.
Take it
And
out.
you see how they had to bend that, though they cubed that that material, they had to bend it in a circle to
Mhm.
cube it.
Yes, ma'am. They had to deal with it on multiple dimensions.
Mhm.
Yes. Now, in this next one, what happened in the movie was the first device they had manufactured, because in the information was the engineering schematics to produce this vehicle that would allow her to travel. And the dude that kind of set her up was allowed to go, and that first device was destroyed. Okay, so she gets called back to Haddon in outer. This time he's not on a plane, a regular airplane. This time he's actually in outer space, and he communicates to her from a heavenly space. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And he's going to reveal something to her, and you automatically will be able to see part of our history written in the script of this movie.
And Brother Luke, man, I just want to make a point, right?
Hey, brother.
They said they were dealing with extraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm.
When you look up the word terrestrial, it means of or relating to Earth,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not foreign. When you look up the prefix extra, this is what it means. It's added to or added to added to an existing or usual amount or number. Additional. It means another definition. To a greater extent than usual, especially, or in addition. And it's words like adjunct, exceptionally, in particular. So when you talk about extraterrestrials, you're not talking about something from somewhere else. You're talking about something more from the terrestrial plane.
Hey, brother. Yes, sir. Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Okay, here's the last clip. The key I want us to look at is she's called back a second time. You're gonna see a wheel within a wheel.
Mm.
It was built in secrecy. And guess where it was built at?
Japan.
It was built in Japan.
Mm.
Now, I don't think I've ever heard that. Have you ever heard that before about a wheel that was built in secrecy in Japan? Or is that a new?
Oh, absolutely.
Is that
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
that come from someplace else?
You know, they used that in another movie too. When they were building the arcs, they were being built in Japan.
That's right. 2012. 2012.
Yeah. Something like that. Uh-huh.
I got to go back and watch that movie again. Let me go back here.
Подними. Я включи вот эту. Москва 3215. Oh, Comrade Otterway. He has been expecting your call. One moment, please.
Mr. Haddon?
Doctor. How kind of you to call.
Mr. Haddon, where are you?
The Russian government was kind enough to give me accommodations on Mir.
You're living on a space station?
It's quite simple, really. The low oxygen, zero gravity environment is the only thing keeping the cancer from eating me alive. Actually, I quite like it up here. My little room has one hell of a view. I want to show you something. Righto, Ivan.
The systems integration site.
Look closer. First rule in government spending. Why build one when you can have two at twice the price? Only this one can be kept secret. Controlled by Americans. Built by the Japanese subcontractors. Who also happen to be recently acquired wholly owned subsidiaries of Haddon Industries. They still want an American to go, Doctor. Want to take a ride?
Oh boy. There's a verse in the Holy Quran that says, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. And his people disputed with him. He said, so you dispute with me, respecting Allah, and he has guided me indeed. And I fear not in any way those that you set up with him, unless my Lord please. My Lord comprehends all things in his knowledge. Will you not then mind? And in this ayah, the word, he has guided me, the Arabic word is hadan. Kind of sounds like hadden, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
That's just laying the foundation of where we're going today, family.
Yes, sir.
So the overview. The goal of this study is to delve into the study of numbers through a subject called number theory. Okay, number theory is a concept in mathematics that deals with the properties, the characteristics, or we could say the attributes of numbers. Okay.
Mhm.
Number theory, which is also called higher mathematics, and it's also called the queen of mathematics, is the study of the properties or characteristics or special types of what's called whole numbers.
Yes, sir.
Foundation of this study is based upon the research conducted by Dr. Ali R. Fazili. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. And we will also incorporate the truths found in the teaching of the Most High Elijah Muhammad through his top student, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as well as the study of the number 19 given by Mother Tainetta Muhammad. Along with our study, our goal will be to provide study guides to aid in our development. So what I hope to do is take what we're reading, produce study guides. Brother Larry, you have a question? Brother Larry?
Answer. No
Okay.
question at the moment.
Oh, okay, I thought you were raising up your hand. Okay, my apologies. Okay, so I'm gonna strive to produce some study guides based on our reading material to kind of guide us through the subject matter. So each student will be provided with a PDF of the research conducted by Dr. Ali Fazeli and will be required to prepare for each class. So we're gonna have homework. I mean, it's not gonna be something that is not gonna be difficult. It is understandable that each student will have their individual level of comprehension of the concepts discussed. I don't expect everyone to understand everything that is in his book, because his book, out of all the math books I have read, and I'm not a math professor, a math scientist. I just love math. His book is it's let's just say it takes some time to parse through that book. The mathematics of the Holy Quran is very, very complicated. which just bears witness to the author. Does that make sense? The author of the Holy Quran. Y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So every one of us
Yes,
comes
sir.
from a different perspective. But I just want every one of us to just make the attempt and be patient. Just be patient, and we'll get through this as a group. Internalize what can be understood and bring your misunderstoods to class. This will form the basis for our discussions. So as you're going through the study guides and as you're going through the reading, do what you can do. And where you hit the blocks, where you hit the things that you don't understand, this is what we will address in the class. Now, to make things a little bit easier for us, I know some of us may not want to be the one that raises their hand and says, I don't understand, okay? So if you come across something you don't understand, send me an email. And as you send me the email of where you're having the trouble with, one of the ways I will solve that with the help of Allah is I will incorporate that into the next Zoom meeting. So your question will be addressed in the Zoom meeting, okay? Because what happens is if there's too many misunderstoods or too steep a gradient, then the word will blow, meaning the individual will stop studying, and then based on the study tech, when a student stops studying, they will never take ownership. Well, I shouldn't say never, but 9 times out of 10, the student will not take ownership as to there was something that they didn't understand. They will blame the teacher. And that's what we do sometimes. We blame the teacher from the perspective of the teacher doesn't like me, or they don't, so I left the class because, he said this, and, he pissed me off or did this and whatnot. But what it all boiled down to is there was a word that was misunderstood. There was a concept that was misunderstood. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So do what you can do. And what you don't understand, write that down. Send me the email, or you can mention it in class, and we will use the study tech to remove that mathematical engram. Okay, it's not an easy subject. Okay, going through the Holy Quran in this math book is not easy. However, don't give up on the journey. Your mathematical comprehension will expand by leaps and bounds. The fact of understanding these concepts is going to give you case gain, and case gain is what keeps us up the tone scale, and that inspires in us a desire to further study mathematics, which is what we need to go into the problem book. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to add something to this that has never been done before. And you might say, well, brother, how do you know this has never been done before? I'm going to make an assumption. That the direction we're going to take with this study hasn't been done before. We will study the subject from a perspective that's never been done before. In addition to our study of number theory, we will incorporate special instructions given to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, found in A Torchlight for America. And those that have been here before know page 48 to page 51 is like the foundation of everything that I study. 2 key points the minister speaks about in those 2 pages, in those 2 areas. 1, make Allah the center of everything that you study. We're all familiar with that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
The second thing he said is, whatever subject you're studying, make that a study of yourself. Don't say, I am a student of mathematics. We say, I am mathematics. I'm not a student
Exactly.
of I am chemistry. So what we're saying is, I'm not studying number theory. I am number theory, correct?
Right.
I'm not trigonometry. I'm not a student of trigonometry. I am trigonometry. So we will use the study of number theory to expand our understanding of the attributes of Allah, our Islam, and the study of the science of the mind called Dianetics. In other words, we're going to use the Holy Quran. We're going to study number theory, And we're going to use the mathematics as a demo kit to understand how our mind operates and to gain a knowledge of self through the numbers. Does everyone follow that?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
So we will strive to increase our study of the words given to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and extract the elements of the formulae that he has provided for our spiritual evolution into the mind of Allah. Meaning, as we go through this, we're gonna extract from what the minister has taught. And the reason why I say that is because of this. There's a quote from the book called Seven Speeches, and it's found on page 7. And it says this, quote, Messenger Elijah Muhammad has said that all his ministers should study Minister Farrakhan's subject matter and draw from it in preparing their own subjects. So what I hope to do with the help of Allah is to incorporate what the minister has already taught us and extract from it the data we need to allow us the ability to understand number theory, to understand the tech on a higher frequency of thought. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sister Angela, you said that with a grin on your face, a smile on your face. I could see your smile. So I pray that Allah blesses us in our spiritual journey into the realm of numbers from the perspective of number theory. So are we ready to kind of scratch the surface?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What are the objectives? Now, we're not going to get to all this today, but this is going to be a journey. This is going to be a very interesting journey. So we're going to go over a quick overview of the work of Dr. Ali R. Fazeli. I'm going to do a brief introduction of the book. We're going to touch on this very briefly because in Arabic, every letter actually has a numerical value. How many of us were not aware of that?
I was not aware.
Okay. There's a term called gematria. I might be pronouncing it correct. Gematria, meaning every Arabic letter has a numerical value. So you can take a word.
It's called gematria.
Gematria, thank you, brother. So in Arabic, the majority of the words have what's called a tri-consonant root, meaning there's 3 consonants. And I'm going to use only one example. And that word has a numerical value. We're going to look briefly at the number 19. We're going to touch briefly on number theory, but this is mainly just laying the foundation of everything that's going to happen forward. And we're going to touch briefly on what's called prime numbers and composite numbers. And we're going to look at these from the perspective of how do these represent people? How can we use this as a demo kit to represent you and I? This is Dr. Ali R. Fazeli. This is a picture that I was able to pull off on the internet. And the information I'm going to share with you is directly from his book. So this is the exact words that he wrote. Forgive me if there's any spelling mistakes. I proofread this over and over again, and there's always something that always sneaks its way in. But it said that—
Brother Lukman.
Yes, sir, brother.
Real quick, just so that you know where the reference for the same science that you're breaking down and how the numbers in Arabic, the letters have a numerical meaning.
Mm-hmm.
The term for that in Islam is called abjad.
The Arabic abjad, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir.
I was going to put that in, and that must have slipped my mind, but thank you for the reminder.
No, you got it, God.
So Dr. Ali R. Fazeli was born in the city of Mashhad, Iran on the 29th day of September, 1951. He graduated from high school in the same city in 1970. He entered Oklahoma State University, where he received the degree of Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering in 1975. In 1977, he received a Master of Science degree in Mechanical, also from Oklahoma State University. In 1980, he received a Master of Arts in Physics from Kent State University. He received his PhD in experimental intermediate nuclear physics from Kent State University in 1982. After a brief stay as a postdoctoral researcher at Kent, he accepted a postdoctoral position at the Louisiana State University in February of 1983. He participated in several nuclear and particle physics experiments at the Los Alamos National Laboratory as a participant and as a spokesperson, where he was a visiting scientist from LSU between 1984 and 1990. In 1990, he moved back to LSU as a research assistant professor, and in 1991, he accepted an associate professor position at Southern University, where he established the High Energy and Astrophysics Group. At the present time, he is a professor of physics at Southern and is involved in neutrino astronomy with the ice cube detector at the South Pole. His interest is to study the structure of the universe using neutrinos as cosmic messengers and various properties of the neutrino. So this brother has a heavy background in nuclear physics and mathematics. Anything, questions, thoughts, anything before we move forward? All right. So this is taken directly from his book. Now, he says in his book, the chief aim, this is a quote from his book, the chief aim of all investigations of the external world should be to discover the rational order and harmony which has been imposed on it by God and which has revealed to us in the language of mathematics. This is from Johannes Kepler. And UM just means ultimate mathematics, which is the name of his book. Introduction. On page 4, he says, this will be just read. The eternal aspect of numbers and their independence of the physical universe are ultimately the multiverse, suggests that physical existence has a design and a purpose emanating from intelligence and therefore can be called creation. In this book, we will witness a manifestation of mathematics never seen before, and that is the truth. I have never seen this before, and which without a doubt can be called ultimate mathematics. And again, I've never seen a book as complicated as the one that he has written based on the Holy Qur'an. So in the Holy Qur'an where Allah says, and I think I have a couple of quotes in here, and if you can produce a book like it and you can never do it, that's real. There's no way that an individual from this plane of existence can produce a book on the level that Allah has produced in his Holy Quran. Does that make sense, family?
Absolutely.
Okay. Numerical value of Arabic letters. So each.
Brother Lukman.
Yes.
Okay, when you said on this, I think you said this plane of existence, would you clarify what you are referring to?
I'm talking about Western civilization.
Okay, yes, sir.
I'm talking about Western civilization. They can't do it. A man whose mind is rooted in this world not going to produce that type of book. You can take all the scholars on the planet Earth, they ain't going to do it. Not possible. Does that answer your question, Sister Ania?
Yes, sir.
So Arabic letters also have numerical values. So we will go further into this subject as the text opens up. I'm not going to deal with all the Arabic and all the numbers today, but at a certain time, it might be something else. I take that back. There's a page in the Ultimate Mathematics, the book that you're going to receive, where he shows all the letters and the numerical values in a chart. So you will get that. So I just give one example. So if you look at the word ahad, say he Allah is one. Kul hu Allahu ahad. Now in the Arabic, you have two H's. You have like a soft H and you have a hard H. They have two different sounds, two different values. But the word ahad has a root. You have A, H, and D. And those are the Arabic letters right there. The letter A is the same, looks the same as the number 1. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that symbol in the middle that kind of looks like a curved T, that is a hard H. And to that left, because Arabic is read from right to left, that last symbol that looks like a backward L, that is the letter E. And the value of that is 4 plus 8 plus 1. So the word ahad has a numerical value of 13. Okay, that's just a brief. This is going to make a whole lot of sense as we go into this book, because this book is based on letters and numbers and their arrangements. Okay. In his book, he says this. He says, chapter or Surah 74, verse 30 of the Quran is the foundation upon which a humanly impossible mathematical coded literary work is built. This surah, entitled The Hidden Secret, informs us that those who claim the Quran is man-made will be proven wrong by the number 19. Okay. Now, Mother Tanetta Muhammad had made the statement that if you look at Surah 74, verse 30, it represents a date. And that date is what?
You said
1930.
Yeah. July
I was
4th,
thinking the
1930.
July 4th, 1930. And that's the only place in the Holy Quran where you see the number 19. So he's saying that this one ayat is the foundation of the whole book that he presents. And for us in the nation, that number, the ayat and the surah, the fact that it produces the number 19, for us, the number 19 represents an individual. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In the book, I'm going to share with you one thing Mother Tanetta Muhammad says in the book. She says, when you look at Wallace Fard Muhammad, that's 19 letters. When you look at Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, I think she said that's 19 letters. As you go through some of the math of the problem book, you're going to come face to face with the number 19, correct? For those that remember, when we did problem number 30, when we calculated how many round trips we could make to the far planet Pluto at the speed of thought, do you remember how we came up with the number 226, 1877? No one remembers that?
You just did that.
Huh? We just did that.
I said, yeah, we just did that.
Maybe 2 or 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
We did the math on that problem and we came up to the birth date of Master Fard Muhammad.
1877.
Not only the year, but we came up with 226, 1877, because we were able to make in 10 seconds at the speed of 24 billion miles per second. We came up with 53 trips, right? And 53 trips, if you convert that to round trips, you have to come up with, you get 26 round trips, correct? So the 53, when we divide it by 2, we get 26. And I think it came, the number we came up with was 0.1877. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So we were able to extract the date of the Savior's birth from problem number 30. Now in Surah 74, it's called the Hidden Secret, but it's also called Al-Mudathir, which means the one wrapping himself up. Okay, because the Arabic word, the root word dathara has multiple meanings. Interesting thing about it is that the word dathara, when you use the abjad numerical value, it actually equals the number 704. And in the number 704, you have what? 7 and a 4, right?
Okay.
And this is found in
Mm-hmm.
74. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Now, from the article from Mother Tanetta Muhammad, she says this. This is taken from Every Day is Mother's Day under the sign of the number 19. This is from May 14, 2011. She says, the coming New World cycle prophesied in the Mayan calendar is identified as the beginning of the sixth sun or world following the present world order. In Surah 74, entitled Al Mudathir, the one wrapping himself up, introduces to us the number 19 and represents the signature of God on all of his creation. It is stated that this number stands over the hell that we have made for ourselves on earth and is used to make a distinction between the believers, disbelievers, and hypocrites who would be separated into groups over which angels are wardens of the fire. The disbelievers question the meaning of this number 19 and are confused about its application. Okay, those are the exact words of Mother Tanetta Muhammad. Any thoughts? We're going to keep moving. All right. And this we actually already we spoke about, but she gave us this date, and this was the date, July 4th, 1930. So I kind of let the cat out of the bag on that one already. Just couldn't help myself. And those who disbelieve say, why has not the Qur'an been revealed to him all at once? Thus, that we may strengthen thy heart thereby, and we have arranged it well in arranging. So we're told in the Holy Quran that this book has a particular arrangement. It's set up in a specific way. And it's set up in such a way that no scholars or teachers or anything on an earthly plane can take credit for it. Okay. Now he says, according to the mathematics introduced in chapter 2. Now, chapter 2 meaning chapter 2 of his book. The Qur'an has always existed and is outside the physical dimensions of the universe we live in. Ultimate mathematics took the form of a book called the Qur'an nearly 1400 solar years ago. It can safely be concluded that the Qur'an is the literal embodiment of the ultimate mathematics described in chapter 2 and can only be authored by God. So we're going to go into chapter 2. We might begin it that next week. But chapter 2 kind of lays the foundation of the different types of numbers and what we're going to find in the Holy Quran. So what are the concepts that we're going to cover? We're going to talk about prime numbers and their indices. So what is a prime number in the indices? The number 2 is the first prime number. That means 2 has an indice of 1. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
The indice is just the index. Where does this number fall in the order? So the number 3 is the second prime number. So 3 has an indice of 2. Okay. 5 is the third prime number. It has an indice of 3. Okay. Then we're going to talk about what's called composite numbers. What's a composite number? There's only on this level. There's only 3 types of numbers, and we're going to talk about them briefly. But a composite number, a prime number, is a number that can only be divided by 1 and itself. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
if I said factor out number 7, the only way you can factor out number 7 is 1 times 7. There's no other way to do it. But if I said factor out the number 6, you can say 1 times 6, or you can say 2 times 3, correct?
Yes, sir.
6 is not a prime number. 6 is what you call a composite number. It has more factors to it. Okay. Then you have what's called twin prime numbers, and these are prime numbers that are close to each other. Okay, that they're only separated by one number. So if I say 3 and 5, those are both prime numbers, and they're only separated by one number, which is the number 4. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Has anyone's mind taken off yet? Has anyone blown a gasket yet? Is everyone all right? Okay. Again, patience and focus and work, and all of this is going to make sense. I promise. Then you have what's called twin prime companions. We'll get into that. We'll get more on that later on. You have what's
You
called.
may have to go back. I think Sister Heidi said she blew a gasket.
Okay, did she? So, Sister Hattie, where you at?
I'm here.
Okay, what's your thought? Let's work it. What's the thought?
Well, no, it's a lot.
It is. It is.
It's a lot, and just like you mentioned, I've heard you say this in the other sessions that I've watched, that we have mathematical engrams that we don't know about. And as I'm sitting here, I'm going through all the motions of not knowing anything. Like I'm yawning, I'm feeling sleepy, I'm getting hungry, and I'm like very confused.
It's coming.
So yeah, but I'm going to continue with it because I want to know this, because like I have been a big fan of unveiling the number 19 for 20 years. And that has always been my favorite thing to read. So when she passed, I was like, oh my goodness, we're not going to have these writings anymore. And so this is very important to me to hear this.
Okay. It's interesting that you say that, because you're going through the textbook definition of getting close to an engram, right? The boil off and whatnot.
Yes, that's exactly why I mentioned it, because I knew what was going on, but I didn't catch it until I was yawning, and I was like, what is going on? I even felt sick. Like at one point, I even felt sick. And so I had to get up and get some water.
Okay. So would you say this processing is working?
Yes, it is.
Because now you can share this if you choose, okay? And this is for anyone in the room. But you in particular, because of something you just mentioned. Who has ever, now back in the day when the teacher would call you up to back then they didn't have the dry erase boards, they had the chalkboard. Who remembers getting so nervous they would get butterflies in their stomach because they're afraid that the teacher was going to call them up to the chalkboard? Okay.
I bear witness.
Okay, so Sister Heidi, you've been there before, right?
Yeah, I liked math up until I guess when I got to high school, when they told me I had to be in remedial math. So I'm thinking somewhere something happened. Okay. Because I was fairly good up until that point, because I loved math. I loved math. I loved multiplication, division. When I study with my children, I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is so easy. What are you guys? But then, their minds are different, and how they're being taught is just that's a whole nother thing too. But I remember up until that moment, I thought I was good in math until I said, no, you have to be in remedial math. I said, okay. So that's where I'm I have a feeling where that's coming from.
Okay. So the fact of being put into remedial math, could we say that on a mental level, that was kind of a suppressor or suppressive?
Yes.
So Sister Angela, I'm going to leave the ball in your court to make sure we get some processing done. So from the sister's standpoint, that we don't leave anyone stuck on the time track by going down this road. And is Sister Belinda, you still with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sister Belinda, at the end of this, we're going to need you to bring us all back to present time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So Sister Heidi, just the fact that you've connected that, do you feel as though something has lifted?
Yes, but yes, just by me talking about it has made me feel better.
All praise is due to Allah. This is the mathematical part of it. Then you have what's called lonely prime numbers, and we'll get, like I said, we'll get into all this later. And then Next week, we're going to touch on this because this is where the journey begins, something called a Mersenne prime number. Okay. So now the function of the ultimate mathematics, and this is coming directly from the book. Number one, to generate the counts of the Quranic initials. Have you ever heard Mother Tanetta Muhammad talk about the abbreviated letters?
Yes, sir.
Okay. For example,
Yes, sir.
Surat al-Baqarah starts with Alif Lam Mim. You might have another chapter, and these are just Arabic letters. They're called the Al-Muqtat, the abbreviated letters or the Quranic letters. And for a long time, people didn't know why these letters were there. You might see one that says Alif Lam Mim Ra. Okay, and they're just Arabic letters. But what he has found in his research, these Arabic letters, these abbreviated letters, are located in certain places because they serve as mathematical markers. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's a mathematical pattern as to why they're located where they're located. But now here, the next statement he makes, this is the kicker. This is interesting. The ultimate mathematics will generate the number of verses in each and every chapter of the Quran. So the mathematics, like Surah 2 has 286 ayats, there's a mathematical reason why Surah 2 has 286 ayats. There's a pattern behind the surah and the number. It's not just done haphazardly. Y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you look at Surat al-Alaq, the clock, that's Surah 96, right? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, it has 19 ayats, yes?
Would you like me to cross-reference you?
Oh, we want to always have, as Dr. Wesley would say, we want to always have our receipts.
Yes, sir.
Oh no. Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, we always want to have our receipts. We want to keep everything
It's
above
19, yes, sir.
It's 19, right? Now, when you take 96 and the number 19, you put it together, 96, 19, that actually is a prime number. No. No, it's not a prime number. There's a way in which to get to that number. I think it's based on patterns of prime numbers. But that 9619 is very, very relevant. We're going to get into that, God willing, next week. Okay. And to prove that the Quran is a manifestation of the ultimate mathematics. So I'm telling you, this book is just incredible. And I've only touched on maybe one, maybe two chapters of it. I've only touched on one or two chapters of it. And this book that I'm going to send you, Allah willing, actually has 187 pages to it. And this math I haven't even touched on yet because I get to a certain point where I have to put the book down. And I have to go pick up my old books and get my mind back to a level where I can understand some of the stuff he's talking about in here. So 3 basic types of numbers. And we're going to look at 3 basic types of numbers to represent 3 types of people. So we're going to look at numbers as representing people like a demo kit. Does that make sense? A demo kit?
Absolutely.
Okay. Really, this number is the only number that exists. Number 1. Okay. And some people might say, well, there's the numbers 0 through 9. That's the mathematical language, yes. And the number 2 does exist, but really 2 is just 1 plus 1, right? So what's 3? 1 plus 1 plus 1. So all of these numbers, in other words, are dependent upon the number 1, right?
Yes, sir.
But the number 1 is not dependent on any number. Okay. Then you have what's called prime numbers. Prime numbers are numbers that are only divisible by 1 in themselves. And then you have what's called composite numbers. Does everyone follow that? I mean, we will go deeper into this as time goes on, but that's just the basics of the number 1, the prime numbers and composite numbers. In that, all numbers will fall into those categories. If you go into infinity, all numbers are either prime or composite, and there's no in between. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So what is interesting about the number 1? We go in Surah 112, say he allows 1. Okay, if the word is becomes an equal sign, then we can translate the above ayah or verse in the equation. We say Allah is 1, then that means the hyphen just means that means Allah equals 1. Okay, Allah equals 1. And I've heard the minister say this in the language of mathematics, the number 1 represents Allah. And I think I've heard Brother Jabril mention this as well. Everyone with me?
Yes, sir.
Has anyone else heard that before?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So the number 1 is the root of all whole numbers. Prime numbers. A prime number, also called a prime, is a natural number greater than 1 that is not a product of smaller natural numbers. Okay. So in other words, it is a number that is only divisible by 1 in itself. So if you look at the number 7 is prime. Why? Because when you factor out the 7, you only get 1 times 7. You can't produce any other product that will give you the number 7 with regards to whole numbers. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mine.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be with any number times 1? No?
Nope. And I'm gonna give you an example. I'm gonna give you an example. Yep. But no, ask the question. That's I love the question. That's fine. So here's a composite number. Composite number, when you factor any number into infinity, the number 1 is a factor of all numbers, yet no number going into infinity is a factor of the number 1. If you say 12, you got 1 times 12, right?
Yes.
But you can also say 2 times 6. You can also say, you can also say 3 times 4. Okay. So then when we list all the numbers, all the factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So when you look at this as a demo kit representing an individual, the 1 represents God, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay. The 12 represents the individual, yes? The 2, 3, 4, and 6 represent some valences that shouldn't be there.
Oh.
See, when you're prime, you have no valences. And the word prime in Arabic also means the best or the best part. It also means original. So the original man is the prime man, prime man. So the original man is like the same as the clear. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As we said before, the cream of the planet Earth, and we said the word cream in Arabic is safwa, and the word safwa means what? To be clear. So when he becomes, so Brother Robin, may God be pleased with him, when he gave us that student enrollment, he said the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe, he said that's a cycle of action, that's a gradient. Because first we have to make, then we have to own, meaning we have to take possession of, yes? Then we become the cream.
Yes, sir.
Then we become the cream, And once we become cream, then we become God. So it's a gradient, it's a cycle of action. First time I heard it given like that was the way Brother Robin explained it. So, sister, does that explain that question that you asked earlier about one is a factor of all numbers, and you see how the composites are different from prime?
Yes, sir.
Now, if you look at the number 8, you got 1 times 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you also has 2 times 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the 1 represents God, the 8 represents the self, but there's some other factors there. You take 18, you got 1 times 8, you got 2 times 9, and then you got 3 times 6. You list all the numbers. It's almost like, you see how all the numbers are listed? Let's look at 1 to 12. Okay, in the top one, you see how all the numbers are listed 1 to 12? Look at that like the time track. The 1 would represent the basic, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 12 represents where you and I are in present time, and look at what we have to go through to get the basic. We got to go through some other valences, yeah?
Right.
So once we factor out a number, it's almost like we're producing the time track of that number, showing that all we have to travel through to get back to basic. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we're using mathematics as a demo kit to understand the science of the mind. Remember, the universe is Allah's demo kit. In the org, we use the bowl with the glass beads and the paper clips and the objects and whatnot. But in Allah's bowl, he uses planets and solar systems and galaxies and universes and quarks and quantums and molecules. And does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
If you look at the number 30, 1 times 30, but you also have 2 times 15. You got 3 times 10.
6.
You got 5 times 6. So if you list all those numbers in order, your start is you. You are the 30. You're trying to get back to the 1, yes?
Yes, sir.
You're trying to get to the basic, but you got to go through these valences, these other numbers that aren't you, to get to the basic. So when you factor numbers out, it's kind of like a time track. So we're learning mathematics and Dianetics at the same time, yes?
Okay.
Is this making sense, family? Does this kind of?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a different kind of model.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this goes back to what the minister said in the Torchlight for America. Put Allah at the center of what you study, and then make the subject yourself. What do? We're putting Allah in the study of our numbers, and we're also putting ourselves, but now we're using this to understand the tech. This is where the supreme wisdom meets the supreme technology, yes?
Yes, sir. Come on now.
So say he allows 1. So if you look at all those things they have in common, the number 1 is present in all of them, yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So all numbers are rooted in the 1. Now watch this. You see where it says 3n plus 5 equals 20?
Yes.
Okay, that's algebra. That n represents an unknown variable. And then if we were to solve this, you would have to plug in a number and then, okay. But now what I wanted us to see is that when you look at so when you look at that number in front of the n, what is that number in front of the n?
3.
3. What is that number called? When the number is in front of a variable, what is that number called? Does anyone know?
A variable?
No, the letter is the variable.
I forgot what that is.
That's called a coefficient.
Yes, sir. That's
Coefficient,
correct.
yeah.
Coefficient. Okay. The number that is in front of the variable is the coefficient. What coefficient means is a number that serves as a measure of some property or characteristic. Okay. A measure of some property or characteristic. It's made up of co plus efficient, which means that which produces a desired effect. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Now, here's where we're going with this point. If I say n plus 5 equals 10, what is the coefficient?
1.
Where do you see a 1 at?
Well, it doesn't show it there, but it's represented.
So the number in front of the n, anytime you see a variable that stands by itself, the 1 is always present, right?
Yes, sir.
So the 1 is assumed to be present, so it isn't written. That means it's always present, but it's hidden. Yes?
Exactly.
Just like Allah, right?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't mean it's a mystery 1. It doesn't mean it's a spook 1. It just means it's assumed that it's always present and it remains hidden. So it's not necessarily always right to 1 because 1 is always present, yes?
Yes, sir.
So it means 1 is always a coefficient. When the letter appears to be standing alone, what does that teach us about you and I? When we think we're alone, who's present?
Come on now. Good teaching.
So we're never alone. The 1 is always present and hidden and is giving value to us. Yes?
Yes, sir.
So the number 1 is a representation of the 1. Now, prime numbers are like individuals that cannot be divided or reduced except by Allah and the self. Does that make sense?
I like that.
Okay. Prime number can't be divided. Only thing that can break down the prime number is if God breaks that number down or if the person does it to him or herself. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the language of the tech, we would call that person a clear, or we could call them an OT, yes? Could we
say that again?
A clear or an OT, operating Thetan. We're drawing parallels between math language and the language of the church. Okay. So a composite number contains the number 1, the self, and other composites or valences. So this could be a numerical representation of what we call a multivalent individual, yes?
That's a good way of putting it.
Right? And a multivalent individual is the same as a person in the tech we would call aberrated. Could we say that?
Yes, sir.
So that person is like a set. That person contains the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that everyone contains the essence of the Spirit of God, correct?
Yes, sir.
And our self is somewhere hidden in that, but it's buried under all those valences of who we've been carrying around our whole life because we don't even know who the hell we are. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is just the beginning. I believe with the help of Allah God that this message will evolve, do the reading, answer the question to the best of your ability. During each session, we will handle the misunderstoods, the steep gradients, and provide the mass necessary to get through the work. If you hit a block and you don't feel comfortable asking the question in class, send your question in an email and I will make that part of the next session. I'll incorporate, if you don't want to raise your hand because you don't want to, some people are just afraid to speak in front of other people with regards to math. Unfortunately, that's the needle that was stuck in our brain in this Western educational paradigm. Okay. If you don't feel comfortable, send me your questions and I'll incorporate it into the next lesson. The questions that you have may the same misunderstood encountered by others. Just understand that the same question you have, probably a good portion of others in the room might have the same question. So you're not alone in your misunderstood. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That is the end of part 1. And it's right at almost 12 o'clock. Any thoughts? Cognitions? Sister Peggy, yes, ma'am.
I have a question
Okay.
about Hadley. Is that no Haddon?
Haddon. Mm-hmm.
Haddon. So he has cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember from the film how he got that cancer.
They don't say how he got it. They just he mentions it when he was up on the space station.
Okay.
And he funded the whole operation of making that craft. And
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, because so Oppenheimer died of cancer, right? He had lung cancer.
Okay.
And I remember when I was in the 7th grade, I did a report about cancer. And one of my resources was something that Oppenheimer said. But at the time, I didn't recall about Oppenheimer being that Oppenheimer. I was thinking he was someone different. But he really wasn't talking about what he did as far as researching about cancer. It was because he was bearing witness that he did get cancer. He did get lung cancer from smoking because he was a smoker, right? Okay, I just kind of wanted to know.
Okay. Yes,
because,
ma'am.
yeah.
Anyone else? Any thoughts? Any cognitions? Anything that could trigger a thought that might crack an answer?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We got brother Larry, and then was that brother Nkazi?
Yes, sir. I'll go after Brother Larry. Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead, brother Larry.
Thank you. Thank you. When Hayden was bringing up her history, did he say you were something to SETI?
Wait, say it again?
Search for Intelligent Life. When he was going over like her bio and her, her graduating from college, and did he mention the word SETI, SETI?
Yes,
which is part of the Search for Intelligent Life form?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make, was I hearing things?
Yes, I think he did mention SETI. That came up more than once in the movie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead, brother Nkazi.
Yes. When it comes to the composite numbers, and like you were saying, in between the first and the last number, can I correlate that to like what Master Farad was saying when we have to swim back to 9,000 miles and that intermediate, and that between that point and swimming back, the composite numbers in between, like you said, is that like the different valences, like you said, that we have to go through to swim back to our original self?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'll tell you why. I can't recall the word off the top of my head, but now I gotta find it. If you look at the word swim in Arabic,
okay,
and I can't recall it off the top of my head, but now I gotta track this down. When you look at swim and then you look at 9,000 miles, and you look at it from the perspective of Arabic,
okay,
something else opens up.
okay.
Now, Now, uh, look at it from this standpoint. This is just my opinion.
Okay.
But the thought is that the Savior's original language or primary language, based on my kindergarten understanding, would have been Arabic, correct? Possibly.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So then my thought is, if his language is Arabic, it's possible he would think in Arabic. And that would also mean to me that if I take concepts from the Supreme Wisdom lessons, but I look at them from the perspective of Arabic, then the lessons becomes, remember, the message has multi-dimensions.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And one thing I have noticed is that when you look at some of the words in the Holy Quran that are capitalized, some of the words that kind of stick out, like why is that word capitalized
Right.
in the middle? And I've noticed on some occasions when I look at the capitalized words in Arabic, that lesson becomes something else. It becomes, there's another degree. And I'll explain it. Go ahead.
No, you say, yeah, it takes you to a whole nother level once you crack that code, was what you said.
Right. And I'll give you another example on two different levels. There's two places in the Holy Quran where Moses is told to strike the rock and 12 springs will gush forth and every tribe knew their drinking place.
Right.
One day I was looking at that and I said to myself, if I take a subject, and I think I had looked at, it was just simple as the concept of a tree. That's okay. Let me look at the word. Let me look at the tree. Now, if I could take a tree and break a tree down into 4 parts, okay, and then if I could take each one of those parts and understand 3 things about each part, then I would know 12 elements or 12 aspects of that tree, right?
Absolutely. Right.
Now, if I look at it from that perspective, and the interesting thing about it is, I can almost recall, and I haven't even studied this, I can almost recall by breaking the wisdom down into the properties of 12, I can almost recall almost every aspect of the tree. You have the root, you have the trunk, you have the branch, you have the leaf. There's the 4. The root you can break down into 3 parts. You have the permanent root, you have the temporary root, and then you have what's called the hair-like extension. There's 3. Then you take the trunk. The trunk has 3 parts. I believe you have what's called the phloem, the cambrium, and the xylem. Now I'm not doing this to try to show off or anything. It's just I just happen to remember.
Right.
I just happen to remember.
Right.
I looked at it mathematically. But now here's where the root of this comes from.
Right.
I've said it before, and I always say this. I think it was last year, the year before, Brother Batin would always talk about what's called the fundamental.
Wow.
And as a musician, I never forget this as long as I live. He said, when you look at a musical note, the note that you hear is called the fundamental, but that note has 12 other notes contained in it that you don't hear.
Wow. Wow.
So if you pull up something called music theory and you pull up what's called the fundamental, one note or the fundamental is made up of many, many harmonics. But for the most part, there's 12 harmonics that every note contains 12 other notes. It's like you have Jesus and you have the 12 disciples. There's something about that 12.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So I try to take what I'm learning in the Holy Quran, but I try to apply it to study. So when I study something, I'm like, okay, how can I break this down and learn 12 things about this? And by the time I get to the 12th thing of it, the other stuff gets converted from short-term to long-term memory. I can just remember it.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Anyone else?
Brother Larry, I put the word in there in the chat.
Al-Sibah. Okay, SBH. Where's my Arabic? I gotta get another Arabic dictionary because this one is falling apart. I think that's the word, but it might be a different word. So SBH. SB. Now, the thing is, which H is it? Is it the hard H or is it the soft H? B, L. Okay. And the thing is, thank you, it's a hard H. Yes, praise due to Allah. It means it also means to praise, like when we say subhanallah, subhana, it also means to praise, to extol. So could we say that someone who can't swim 9,000 miles is someone who doesn't have the ability to give glory to God? It's just another way of looking at it. Okay. I have some other notes on this, but the notes aren't in my dictionary. But do you understand the point? There's certain things in the wisdom, if we look at it from Arabic, because we can't take, the problem is we take the supreme wisdom on face value. And the wisdom in the supreme wisdom is multi-layered. It's multi-dimensional. There's many different ways that we can, each one of us can study Lost Found Muslim lesson number 2, question number 8. We can all come up with our own interpretation. But then when we come together, it's like bringing together the pieces of a whole nother mothership. And I can understand your viewpoint, you can understand mine. My understanding increases, your understanding increases, even though our understanding was different, it was still rooted in the same wisdom. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And the more we study, you know, in Closing the Gap, page 19, yes, page 19 is where we're told that the Savior would teach the early believers using pictures. And the picture is not the truth, but the truth is contained in the picture. And the more you go into the picture, the more truth comes out, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's the same way with the lessons. The lessons in the supreme wisdom don't change. But as we read the wisdom, as we read the lessons, who changes?
Person.
Person changes. So it's like the revelation is not necessarily coming from the wisdom, it's wisdom that's buried in us. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay. Go ahead, Sister Angela.
Yes, sir. 2 things. Have you seen the movie Arrival?
Yes, definitely.
So marrying the synopsis of that movie to what we were talking with Brother Nkazi brought up about the swimming back with supreme wisdom. In Arrival, you have a female scientist, again, that is slowly but steadily realizing that she's in a cyclical time. And she has to catch up mentally to which she already has executed or lived. And the beauty of that movie was the veil between her and those beings. And I really took it as the beings being a form of her and the man, just on another dimension.
Wow.
So it's going back this 9,000 miles, and it says that they couldn't swim. Well, what made them think that they had to swim? Oh, because they didn't have a ship of their own. And what would the ship represent? The truth of Allah. The thing that was taken, the fundamental that was taken from us, the prime, what could we build without the prime number? 1. So how could we swim? not knowing who we are and whose we are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sister Angela, were you a part of the Zoom meeting where we touched on that? Because remember, I think you might have been there. We talked about the concept of what's called linguistic determinism.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite subjects.
That was about 2 years ago. We talked about that, how by the language you use determine your ability to influence your environment.
We did that last, was it
We
Sunday?
we did it again, but we did that specifically dealing with the movie Arrival, probably like about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, you're right. But with the 400 words, speaking the 400 words considered well. Average men and our people right now are in such a wretched condition that they're below average. Like some of our children are below average. So they're trapped in a cage of nonverbal communication.
Has anyone had a thought, but you couldn't find the words to put the thought in? And that's what we talked about at the very beginning of the Zoom meeting today, how a word is composed of letters. And that word represents a sound, and that sound conveys a thought.
Right.
And
the connectedness of it. But if we are limited in words, then we are limited in it all.
So then the idea becomes the lion that's trapped in the cage. And we said, is it possible that Allah is using the numbers to convey a message? We have to learn not the numbers, but we got to learn what the numbers represent.
Right.
To Allah. Anyone else before we wrap it up? Thoughts, questions, cognitions, anything?
I would just say watch Arrival and the Hidden by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan if nobody's seen it yet.
Oh, I started watching The Hidden Truth, so I'm studying that.
That's a beast. That's a beast right there.
Go back and watch Contact for those that have that. Now go back now with the added data, and you're gonna see other things there.
And they got The Signal too. You seen The Signal?
The Signal.
It's the guy that played in that what did he play? I don't know. He played it, I think 2012, but one of the movies where he had Get Them to the Ships. Yeah, 2012. The guy with the black hair, that 14 something movie, 1407. Room 1407 in the hotel that was
You're talking
demonic.
about with Samuel Jackson and
So he played in
about.
He got a movie, I believe it's called either The Signal or The Cell, but I'm leaning toward The Signal because this is the signal that is being emitted and is basically transforming people into mindless robots.
Oh damn, we gotta watch that one.
Yeah.
And then you had that one with Nicolas Cage. Was it called? Is it called Numbers?
Knowing. Yeah, he did the numbers on there.
Based on the mathematical code. You notice the one item that all the children that were going to leave, the one thing they were all given to mark that they were going. What were they given? Do you remember?
An envelope. Oh no, they was the stones.
They were all given a black stone. What does that mean? Black stone. If you didn't have a black stone, you couldn't go. Sorry. Anyway. But Enrique, I see you pop back in, brother. Anything you want to drop before we close it out?
Yeah, I was on. I just tapped the wrong screen and it popped me out.
Oh, okay.
I've been following the whole time.
Okay.
I'm just listening at this point. I definitely got some jewels out the deal.
Praise be to Allah.
You know what I mean? And I appreciate where you're going with it, with the numbers and everything. And I know that it's gonna build up a lot more. So what I'm going to do too is you check out some of those videos you mentioned from that guy.
Oh yeah, from Dr. Fazali, yes.
Yep, from Dr. Fazali. But I see how you tying it in, you linking it with the language of Dianetics, the power of language, because that's really what Dianetics works with. And then what's happening with the supreme wisdom is the power of language. It's communicating ideas in the form of like Minister Ishmael mentioned. He said the first scientist speaks in formula, and the second scientist explains it. And that's what's going on with the extension we have with the ministers. He's explaining the meaning of a lot of the wisdom, but the way Master Fra Muhammad put it. And then one other thing, Minister Jabril said that the messenger said that he could write a volume of encyclopedia on each one of the lessons. And he also said that it was loaded with wisdom. He said that he wanted us, before he left, he wanted us to focus our study on the supreme wisdom lessons. Mother Tanetta mentioned that as well. So this is where the gods is made.
Yes, sir. We got to remove these mathematical barriers and ridges. And this is a part of the God waking back up. How could the enemy rule? The original man had to be put to sleep, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what would be one thing he had to be put to sleep with regards to? To me, it would be he'd have to be put to sleep with regards to
knowledge itself.
Knowledge itself.
Mathematics.
So now it's no coincidence that now, and Sister showed a great example of it. We taught mathematics, and then she starts to have boil off. She's starting to contact some things on the time track now. Okay. Go ahead,
What's
Sister
interesting, brother?
Oh, go ahead, brother. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
What's interesting, brother Lukeman, is that they encourage the idea that that people say that they're not good at math. It's actually drilled into the people, and it's not an accident that they drill it. But what's interesting is that the cultures who intend to try to rule the original man, that's not the modus operandi they operate off. They're encouraged, like Indian culture, they're encouraged to be mathematically inclined. And I actually say, in the time that we live in, if you don't know mathematics, you're illiterate, even if you can read well. Because everything that's like, if you don't know mathematics, you can't understand how your cell phone works. You don't know how your computer is working. You don't know how the things that he's entrapped us with, the tools that you need to operate, you have no idea how they function. And they speak around you with it. Like, I was dealing with cryptocurrency in a while back, just learning it. And the language of cryptocurrency requires that you have a grasp of computer knowledge at a mathematical level. That's where everything is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sister Angela?
Yes, a couple of things. When the brother was just speaking, I was taken to our brother Clarence 13X and seeing what caused Allah to allow him to do what he did. Because any 5%er, when you first ask what one represent, any 5%er would have said Allah, because that's how we were taught supreme mathematics. And I was hoping you showed the scene when she actually traveled. And I love the fact that she was by the beach, because the grains of sand, for me, represents the vastness of the mind of God. So while we were talking, my mind traveled to what we do and will be doing in the kingdom of God. Allah's mind is so vast. As scientists, we expound or strive to expound on the tiny grains of sand that we may receive, right? Then it brings me to supreme wisdom and the whole purpose I see for this class. What is our wretched condition? We spoke about understanding words and unlocking mathematics in the word. I think one of the most beautifully understudied or it doesn't get enough of attention is how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches. And from what I can see, especially in 2023, a big portion of our wretched condition is attributed to I'm better than mindset.
Mm-hmm.
If you go on social media, and I follow a lot of Muslims, and we don't teach in a way, or what Allah allowed us to get in his mind and see. We don't do it in a way that will pull our people out of their and our wretched condition. Is almost like mockery. It's almost like I know something that you don't know.
That's excellent,
And
sister.
praise be to Allah. And this is the fundamental part of it. What I loved about the nation of God's and earths and the 5% nation, though it was a little harsh, you gonna know your lessons. And it was not in mockery. It was truly, I mean, it didn't start like that. Let me put it that way. So I think we can extract that spirit from the first, actually. Because in the first, it was something so dedicated by the pioneers who we stand on their shoulders right now. Maybe they didn't understand as much, but the way they chose to live the law and live under Islam is commendable. So one of the things that I guess I'm going to keep in mind our next class is our wretched condition and what he put in the supreme wisdom and with the Holy Quran, and using Dianetics to unlock my own mind from myself. Because most of us self-aggrandize for truly being very insecure people.
Mm. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
That was awesome, sis.
All praises still to Allah, sir.
If you look in the chat, there should be a
Absolutely.
link for the PDF.
I'm downloading.
If everyone would do that, just let me know if it came through all right.
Yes, sir. I got it. Mm-mm.
And so what I'll do is I'm gonna send out the first study guide to kind of guide us into what we're doing.
198 pages.
You know what, Brother Luke, man, I also want to thank you for being as technologically savvy as you are with the tools of the, our modern equipment.
Modern equipment,
brother. How you been, how you you did the presentation, put the video in there, and the fact that you don't excuse yourself. There's a lot of people, because I told you my capacity. A lot of us excuse ourselves from being literate with the technology and and using it in the best form where we can actually do more with less time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, I commend you on that. I appreciate your level and attention to detail with your studies. I haven't seen anything in the past, or not to say that I'm really looking for that, but it's always an important deal that you don't you're always guiding your materials along with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad very carefully. And I noticed that whatever ideas you submit, you always rebut it with something from the messenger, or something from the the minister, or something from the teaching. So that's I appreciate that very much.
Mm-hmm.
Praise be to Allah.
The one thing I learned in ministry class a while back, there's two key points. One was something that Brother Jabril told us. We had a ministry class in Philadelphia around, I want to say around 1997, I think, around that time period. But there's two things I remember from the ministry class. Number one, always use reference. Always use reference. And that's why I'll bring up a quote. I'll either give an ayat from the Holy Quran or something the minister said. Because if and I can't remember what page of Closing the Gap this is, but the minister says that he doesn't like intellectual cowards. He doesn't like people that just repeat. You got to dig into the wisdom and find the jewels that Allah shows you and I. And now hear this from a mathematical perspective. Brother Enrique, you had how much calculus did you have?
I had up to calculus 3, but I had dropped out.
Okay.
Into that.
Okay.
You know,
I'll explain it on the level of calculus. When you're given a function, you have to find out what is called the derivative. Okay.
Yes, sir.
You have to, and the process is called differentiation.
Absolutely. I used to love that.
Okay. Now what that means is this. I'm gonna try to explain it in a way that Brother Enrique will get it, but I want to explain it how we can all grasp it. We can all understand the concept. When you differentiate, you're taking one formula that doesn't change, and you're able to extract data based on past, present, and future. So you can extract the past to understand the present, and then based on if you have that equation and you have the present, you can determine what will take place. In the stock market, this is what they try to do. Excellent movie to go to see. Excellent movie to see. You'll probably have to get the DVD. Is a movie called Pi.
Oh, that was one of my favorite movies.
It's a movie about a man who finds a mathematical code, and everyone tries to come after him to find the mathematical. Yeah. Okay. So now here's the thing. The name farad comes from the Arabic root word farada. Okay, and this is the way I look at understanding the math. I put it in terms of our history. One of the meanings of farada in the word farad means one who is the first of a pair. That's right in Arabic.
Yes, sir. I got that same dictionary.
Okay, cool. First of a pair. Now, in mathematics, we have what's called the X, which is the unknown, but in pre-calculus and calculus, it's called the independent variable. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have what's called the independent, and then you have what's called the f of x, meaning the x that's placed in another vessel that manifests the will of the x.
That's like the composite function.
So you have what's called you have a function. So now the Most High Elijah Muhammad presented wisdom that is eternal, correct?
Yes, sir.
Eternal. Now, when you differentiate in that wisdom, that means study his wisdom with regards to past, present, and future, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us to study past, present, and future. It's not a coincidence, I don't think, that the word differentiate in Arabic is furqan. Okay. In the Arabic dictionary, the word furqan means to differentiate, which means to extract a derivative. So what has the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan done? All these years, he has gone into the function, which is never changing. People thought he was changing the teachings. No, he understands how to extract the wisdom with respect to time.
Yes, sir.
Wisdom with regards to the past and the present is not necessarily the same as the future, but the equation does not change.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Now, in calculus, the first derivative is called the prime derivative. And this is why the minister is called the messenger's best or top student, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the derivative is used to calculate the velocity or the speed of how something moves, correct?
Absolutely.
Sure.
But now, when you extract the derivative, if you do what's called integration, which is the inverse, someone can give you the derivative and you can trace it back to its point of origin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything you hear the minister teach, you can trace it back to what the Most High Elijah Muhammad is teaching, correct?
Facts.
Okay, now, if he's the prime derivative, that means when we study what the minister teaches, we are extracting the second derivative, which shows you how to calculate acceleration.
Yes, sir.
So when you take Brother Nori or Dr. Ava, or Brother Ishmael or Dr. Wesley, their teaching styles are all different, but you can integrate all of them back to the prime derivative. You can trace it back to the minister, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And if you can trace what they're teaching back to the minister, then it automatically goes back to the Most High Elijah Muhammad, and it automatically goes back to the Savior, Master Farah Muhammad, correct?
Yes, sir. That's a form of integral mathematics.
That's called integral mathematics. So I say that to say this: we have to find our voice. We have to find
Yes, sir.
our purpose. The minister said, "Blessed is one who finds the purpose and is found doing it." The minister doesn't want us to just parakeet what he's saying. He wants us to give the meaning of it.
Right.
Take what the minister is teaching us and put it in the fine language that we know. And then when people when we're blessed to share what Allah blesses us to receive, I should be able to show you back where I got that from. This is from the way that I studied the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I'm doing what's called a theological integration.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So calculus can be a theology of calculus. It could be a differential theology. And the fact that I can take it back to what the minister has said, I'm doing an integral theology.
Right.
I'm showing how to use mathematics to bear witness to our Islam.
Exactly.
And that's why it's important, as Dr. Wesley says, to use receipts. If I can say that I got this from the minister, then you can't dispute that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything based on mathematics is based on two, outside of a Torchlight for America, but specifically with mathematics, there's two things that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught. And everything that I have done up to this point with teaching math on the kindergarten level that I'm teaching it is based on two things that the minister taught. That's why I don't try to take credit for nothing. Do you remember when the minister talked about the cross, how it represents two natures, the horizontal, the vertical nature of man?
Yes, sir.
We've all heard that before, right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. But the thing is, when I heard the minister say the cross represents the horizontal and the vertical nature of man, I saw that as the X and Y axis in coordinate geometry.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then when I saw that, I said, wait a minute. If the X and Y coordinate in geometry can represent man, then there's something about geometry I can study to understand the mind.
Yes, sir.
Second thing the minister said, he says it in the study guide. He says horizontal growth alone is, and I'm paraphrasing it, horizontal growth alone is not enough. You have to grow horizontally and vertically, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you look at the coordinate plane, the X and Y axis, when you grow horizontally and vertically, that's called a positive inclination, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now you're getting into trigonometry. So in trig, what are you looking at? The X axis represents the physical, the Y represents the spiritual, and then when you start drawing the triangles in trigonometry, you're drawing the measure of the mind. So you have the physical, the spiritual, and the mental, and for me, that is the basis of spiritual trigonometry. So when I study trig, I'm studying the three aspects of man. And that's just based on what the minister is always speaking in formula. We got to extract We gotta look at what the minister is saying and then look behind what he's saying and see the math that's behind it. The minister's a scientist, no doubt about it.
Without a question.
But he's trying, and if you go to the beginning of Closing the Gap, it talks about this. It says that he doesn't want us to just applaud. He wants us to become greater than he is. Even though we know we're not going to become greater than he is, he says it's the desire of any teacher. Anyone that's done martial arts will know when you go into the dojo. When I went into the dojo, there was two pictures I would bow to, not out of worship, but you bow out of respect. There was O Sensei,
exactly.
O Sensei and Takeda Sensei. So no matter how far up in the art I become greater and greater, I'm never going to disrespect my teacher and try to outdo them. I'm always going to respect O Sensei and Takeda Sensei because they form the foundation of the art of Aikido Jiu-Jitsu that I study. And they would want me to become greater because I'm just going to bear witness to their teachership. That's what the minister wants for us. He wants us to grow in wisdom, not in an arrogant way. Exactly. But we'll always bear witness to the God because none of us would know anything. The minister said it like this, and then I'm going to shut up because I feel like I'm on a soapbox. The minister said it like this. You can take all our wisdom, put underneath the head of a pin, and there'll still be room to run around. That's key.
Yes, sir.
It means we really don't know a doggone thing.
Right.
But Allah wants to make each and every one of us into a God in our own particular field. We all might not be mathematicians, but some of us might be a botanist. Someone might be a physicist. Some of us might be an astronomer. We have to find the math, the physics, or the science where we fit in and where our passion is. Get in where we fit in and become a god in that area. For me, it's math, science, and chess. I'm a chess addict. I probably play about 20 to 30 games a day. That's my drug of choice. I'm an addict. Okay. So I apologize for being long-winded. Anyone else, and we can close it out. All right, family. Any thoughts, any questions? You can send me the email. I will try to get this book scanned and get it to us. And I will do my best to have the study guide out by the end of the week or sooner so that you have enough time to go over it. And that will be the basis of the work that we will begin, God willing, next Wednesday. I don't have a subject as of yet for Sunday, but Allah always blesses us with what we need. So I'm just going to wait for my assignment. If you have anything that you would like to see covered, send me an email. And if you have something that you would like to share, a couple of weeks ago, y'all missed the scientist that's on the Enterprise right there. She dropped a real heavy workshop on how to eat to live. And we had another sister that did a workshop a little while ago, Sister Tina. The platform is open for all of us to manifest the God that's in us. So, inshallah, we'll see each other on Sunday. I pray Allah will continue to bless us in all the work that we do. And with that said and done, family, I will go ahead and close us out in prayer. Yes, ma'am, Sister Peggy. Attention prayer. Seek refuge in Allah from the accursed Satan. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, Beneficent, the Most Merciful, Master of the day of judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we serve, thine aid do we seek. Please, Allah, guide us on the straight path, the path upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not the path upon whom thy wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray if they have heard thy teaching. Ameen.
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 Assalamu alaikum, family.
Walaikum salam, sir.
Mhm.